Okay, thanks everyone. Welcome to ACDE number 215. Have a couple things on the agenda today. So a bunch of Fusaka scope finalizations, questions to go through, specifically around 7907, the max blob per transactions, and then the ModExp precompile repricing. Once we get to that, I wanted to chat a bit about Glamsterdam. So specifically, we have these headliners that have been proposed. We were hoping to finalize that in 2 weeks, but given we have not yet finalized the Fusaka scope, that feels unrealistic. So yeah, we should probably revise that. And then finally, Matt had a couple of things around the history expiry that he wanted to get feedback from teams on. But I guess to kick us off, does Perry or Barnabas want to give us an update on Devnet 2 and how things are going there?
Yeah, sure. So Devnet 2 is actually not looking too great. We have on finalization for about 3 days now. We had a bunch of peering issues and some fork ID issues. Bezu had a fork ID bug. Wrath had some peering issues. Nimbus and Nimbus EL both are having issues. They are unable to sync. We're about 56% right now, and yeah, it's not looking too great. And Teku also had some issues. And in the beginning, before we even hit Fulu, during full transition, Prism had a bug as well.
Okay. Do any of the client teams want to chime in about the issues they've encountered and what the next steps are? Yeah, Roman?
Yeah, we added some more logs to see what the PRN issues are exactly, and it seems to be fork ID related as well. We should fix it by the end of the day.
Okay. Why did anything change in the fork ID?
It is more likely that we're not initially treating BPOs as regular hard forks.
Oh, okay, I see. Then okay,
Most likely BPO related.
I see. And Gabriel, when you say basically was not calculating the fork ID correctly, is that also the source?
Yeah, exactly the same thing.
Okay. Got it. I know that when we ran into this issue on the test nets for Pectra, we said we would create some test suites to actually test these like static configs for clients. I don't know if we ever did it. Yeah, I think Dano or Mario were working on this. I don't know if either of them has context on it, but it does seem like if this is also hitting us now, we should probably figure out a way to test it, especially in the context of BPOs. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe
nothing in the East repository. We can work something out. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can discuss this, I think, around the call Monday. But it does feel like it does feel like if we have a growing number of just parameters that clients need to align on in Genesis, we should have a way to just test that statically. And yeah, thanks, Spencer. Yeah. I'm not sure that the thing you linked, Spencer, was Dano's proposal. I think he wanted to like extend this or something. But yeah, can follow up async about this. Any other issue people wanted to discuss? Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry. That second link that Gabriel shared is what Dano's proposal was. So I don't know if this would actually support BPOs. If not, we should probably extend it and make sure we have some tests around this.
Is this something we could actually ask for next Devnet? Would it be hard to add another EIP? Because this is just a JSON RPC call, so it should be fairly easy to add.
Have any clients actually implemented this?
So we have not in Get.
Do you have a sense of how big of a lift it is to implement? Like,
so one thing about this proposal for sure is that it requires basically a custom implementation of this method. So it's not something that just falls out of the Genesis, for example. So we do have to write some
right.
to support
Okay.
this. But we can, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a PR for base view. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I would really want this to be included, to be honest, and because we need to verify if the config is correct. And I just don't understand how this was not there yet before.
Yeah,
and
so I think
all clients should use the same format. That would be very nice.
Yeah, like all the clients will probably have to implement it a bit differently, but exposing, exposing the call in the same format would be really helpful. I guess maybe one thing that could be helpful is if teams have time before Monday's testing call to get like a rough sense of what the implementation lift would be. We can make a call then about having it be a prerequisite for Devnet 3. Does that make sense? And I think, okay, if we chat about it as well on Monday, the other thing that we should probably consider is there some version of this for the CL clients? Because if the EL clients are running into issues, then we probably want to wait for CL clients to also make sure they're like set up with the same configs, but that might be a bigger lift.
Yeah, CLs already have this API exposed, Beacon API.
Okay, amazing. Okay, then yeah, it feels like we should definitely do it on the EL. And yeah, like I guess to Lukash's comment, like it's not like a consensus change, so it's not like something we would add to DevNet 3 formally, but I think it's maybe something we can just gate. Like we agreed to like not launch DevNet 3 until we have this. But yeah, I think we should give teams like maybe a couple of days to look into this and finalize that decision on Monday. Does that make sense? Okay, let's do that. Any other test DevNet issues, sorry, that people feel we should bring up here and discuss? Okay. Then next up, we need to make a call around the EIP 7907. So there was a pretty big thread about this this week. I mean, it's been going for many weeks, but yeah, I don't know if Dragan, do you want to give a context on your latest proposed change or light client? Either of you want to give a summary?
Sure, I can do it. After interop, we have discussion, but changes need to be made on 7907. Light client made PR that reduces code size to basically doubling it. Previously, it was 10 times. It introduced slightly more gas fee from 2 per word to 4 per word. And the last thing was it basically to use the case with the X code size. I think all clients are was fine with that change. Yesterday we had discussion how to implement the warming of the code size. In the end, I think all clients are fine to remove it and for that thing to be implementation detail. In general, there are 3 PRs that need to be merged. One is clarification, light client PR, the patch that removes code size load warming, and the last one is most clarification from Mario is to include the loading of the initial targeted bytecode when it is hit by transaction. This was not in Devnet 2, this was not done. Yeah.
Thank you. Mike, anything to add on that, or? So, okay, if not, then I guess there's, 2 questions. The first is, are all the teams okay with the 3 PRs that Gabriel from Basu posted in chat? So this PR 9910, then the addition that Dragan made to it, and then Mario's PR around large contracts. So if we went forward with this, does anyone oppose merging these 3 PRs and then having that be the final spec? And then the second question is, should we make the code size index optional or mandatory? I think optional was where soft consensus was last time I checked, but yeah, we should definitely get explicit agreement on this.
A PR assumes that code size index is optional, or basically implementation detail.
Right. Oh, yeah. And sorry, by I guess by optional, like not in consensus. Like I think there's no design where we are actually making this like a part of the consensus, but when we said implementation detail, it's like we still expect all of the teams to have something, or
Yeah, someone help catch me up on the rationale for reducing the contract code size limit to 48 KB, representing Arbitrum, and also catching up on all the different threads. So I'm sorry if I missed it.
I think it's mostly to cite with caution. 10 times increase in the contract size seems too much. And with this AIP, we are doubling it and preparing the work for further increase in the future hard forks. In future hard fork, we could just change the constant, and in the end, we will have the bigger contracts.
That's helpful, thanks. So there's a path to scale it over time, but we want to start slow. I mean, doubling is not necessarily slow, but we very much would prefer the full 256 KB, but understand that that's maybe not the safest or most scalable thing to do today. But very much in favor of it being included in Fusaka, even at the 48 KB limit.
And I guess maybe just a bit of a sidetrack, but on this question, like, do you have a sense of the distribution of usefulness? Like, how many, when you say you want the 256, like, I assume this means maybe, I don't know, Arbitrum can run everything in like a single contract. But then like, yeah, what benefit do you get from like, 48 versus, say we doubled it again to 96? Like, are there some numbers or some like sizes that are just like disproportionately useful?
Yeah, so one of the big benefits to us is that a lot of the Rust and C and C++ binaries that we run with Stylus, or the WASM engine, is just naturally larger. So we would like to add certain crates that can blow past 24 KB once they're optimized. So it would be ideal for us to be able to import more crates like that that aren't just hand-rolled maths. There's also other Rust elements for the Rust contracts on the Arbitrum stack that we would be able to move on-chain more and have a lot of performance benefits too. So we're sort of capped right now on how much of that we can deploy on-chain without having to spread it out or scatter it across many contracts.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so I guess back to the actual spec changes. So like I think it seems like there's no objections on those 3 PRs. Then the question is about the index. If we do leave it as an implementation detail to clients, as Oscar said, we want to have we want to make sure we're not introducing new bottlenecks or new issues, even in the case where the gas limit increases. We haven't quite benchmarked this extensively, but yes, Lucas should seem to have an intuition for like what kind of bottlenecks would this cause, and do you want to maybe give more context on this?
Maybe I can respond.
Yeah,
we will
sure.
still have additional gas that if the bytecode gets code loaded, you will still have that initial gas that you need to spend. Why we say the code size index is optional is because this will not apply for the external code size. For external code size, the bytecode is not going to be made warm. It will be always cold. It will be cold after the call. That means that if the bytecode is not warmed somehow from other opcodes, you still need to account for additional gas. So worst case in this sense is covered.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this? Otherwise, I would lean towards including it in Devnet 3 with these changes. I think we will benefit from actually getting clients to try and implement this. We can also run large blocks and spammers on Devnet 3 or the Devnet 3 version. And to Ongar's point, like by optional, I guess we would leave it at the clients how they implement it, but then we should actually test these implementations in like large scale devnets. Ansgar?
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I didn't mean we should, like, I don't think there's an option where, at least not for Fusaka, where we would have an enshrined index in any sense, meaning like an actual like state object that would be had a specified structure and would be committed to or anything, because that's just too big of a lift. So the question really is just, do we want to mandate that all clients have a version of a kind of a way to always get the contract size that is never worse than, say, loading a 24 kilobyte contract? Or do we basically even leave that choice up to the clients? Because that, I think, impacts quite heavily what kinds of things like performance we're testing and whatnot. So I was really more just asking for that decision. Like, do we make it mandatory that there is some way of efficiently accessing code size or not?
Lucas?
So in my opinion, this is the other way around. We should firstly create some worst case scenarios benchmark and target some kind of performance, and then see if a client can live without those index, the ones that don't have it, and if they don't, they need to implement it.
Yeah, so I guess that would be making it optional.
Right, but then maybe just one more point there. Like I do think then just the point would be that normally I agree with that process, but all of that would have to happen before a final inclusion decision into the hard fork, because basically first you get some benchmarks and then you decide, okay, do you need to have a index or not to basically then hit the performance targets, but only once you hit the performance targets can you make the inclusion decision. We want to make the inclusion decision today. So that means we have to basically already be at basically 100% confidence that we will hit the benchmark requirements that we will eventually have. And the problem is right now we just don't have the data for that yet.
Yeah,
if
and I
we
guess
are all
the
so
way
optimistic that we are very confident that we will hit them, we can do that and then just worst case pull the EIP, but it just feels very opinionated.
Yes, that was my initial reservation against the EIP, and that we don't have any benchmarks for it, and that's why we were not happy with 10xing the target. With 2xing, we are pretty sure we will hit decent numbers.
Yeah,
regardless
and
probably of the index.
I would treat this like basically any other DOS vector in a way. Like we should include it, and then if we find in testing that there's like a DOS issue or like a performance issue, then we can always remove it. But that's true of every EIP. And I think at this point, like the main thing we're bottlenecked on is actually getting the clients to implement it and seeing how that works. So like if we want any chance of shipping this in Fusaka, I think we basically have to include it, leave the index optional, and then yeah, make a call based on the performance numbers. And worst case, we will remove it if we don't feel that we can actually like yeah, address those issues.
Just say we added new gas to mitigate that potential DDoS. So
right.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay. And then when we'll need to see these new benchmarks, I think once we have Devnet 3 up and running and it works in the happy case, then our priority should be to actually do the stress testing. If we can do it in parallel, then great. But it does seem like Devnet 2 is still struggling with some issues. So we first need to get it implemented, get it live on Devnet 3, and then we should stress test it shortly after. Okay, so any objection to move forward with 7907 in Devnet 3? It's already SFI'd, I believe, since the last call. Let me just actually double check that real quick. I'm almost certain. Yeah, so it was SFI'd on the last call. So I would just add it to Devnet 3 and flag that we are merging the three PRs that were at the agenda. So that will be the final spec. Yeah, Milan?
Yeah, hey, I just have a quick question. Everything so far sounds good to me, but I was just wondering, do you guys think that there would be a Devnet 4 and a Devnet 5? And if there is, I'm wondering, and if we're gonna do all these performance tests and benchmarking, I'm wondering if it's worth leaving the 256 kilobytes unchanged for Devnet 3 so that we can gather.
Right. I would lean against. I think we should do 48, and we try to have Devnet 3 be the last Devnet. And to the extent there's a Devnet 4, it's because there's a bug on Devnet 3 that requires like restarting the Devnet. But I think we should consider this like the final spec. And given the concerns around benchmarking and whatnot, I think we do 48 now, and then and yeah, potentially for the next fork, we consider some different design to get us to 256 or making the index mandatory or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on 7907? If not, then yeah, let's try to get these PRs merged in the next couple of days so that we have the final spec and we can get it implemented. Next up, we discussed this, I think, on the last couple calls, but we want to finalize the max blobs per transactions in BPOs. So right now they were set at 12, and they were set at 12 starting at BPO 1, and there was conversations about moving it back to 2. Yeah, I guess, do we want to limit this back to 6 again, move it to 9? Yeah, it would be nice to get to a final decision on this today.
Yeah, I guess the current proposal is to have it be in 6, right? But
so which proposal? There was no PR. I guess I know we discussed it, but like, yeah, I couldn't find like a PR or anything. So I guess that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up again. Yeah.
It would be cool to have a in form of PR. I was asking about that in chat. Maybe it will appear later this meeting. But I guess another cause of not having this PR is because it's in kind of discussion. Because we can go even 3 ways. First way is to keep what we already implemented in the current form. And
that's the 6 and then 12 for the BPOs as the EIP states, correct?
But by 12, what number do you mean? Like
max blobs per transaction. So when you say what's currently implemented, the EIP currently says sticks up to Osaka, and then BPO 1, BPO 2 have 12. So is that what the clients already have?
The EIP states that we're going to use the max value by default if you don't re-specify.
Okay, I see. And so what the clients already have is they use this max value by default, which goes from 6 to 12 in the first BPO.
Yeah, I guess this dialogue can be split into 2 discussions. First one is how do we actually define this value? Is it a constant in a PeerDAS EIP, and we will not change it in blob schedule? And whether it is a consensus, a value that affects consensus, or just a TX pool value. And after that, we can decide about a specific value. As far as I remember, Ansgar post 6 for BPO, I guess. But this is seems to me like the second part of discussion. So let me say a couple of words about the first part. I still think that it is quite convenient to have this value in blob schedule and gradually increase it through the forks. Should it affect consensus or not? Right now, it does not affect consensus. Everybody can build blocks without with limit defined just by how much blobs we can include in the block. And the initial idea was to limit how much one transaction can, includable transaction can contain blobs like single transaction. And I see that some clients support the idea is to have it as a text pool limit only. And I wanted to hear more opinions about that. You guys have anything to say? Is it a text pool a limitation for propagation, or we cannot include huge transactions into a block too?
Yeah, Francesco.
Yeah. Personally, I don't really see the point of making it a blob pool only thing. I think we should make it, we should have it in consensus as well. And the reason is that if you're not going through the mempool, like if you're sending directly to a builder, I don't think this is much of any limitation. Like you can just have multiple transactions and split them that way. I don't think it really, like the only thing that it does is that you cannot amortize more, but that's kind of a negligible thing that I don't think we should care about. Like beyond a certain point, it just doesn't matter. And yeah, and and you do get benefits from having in consensus that it's impossible to kind of send a really large transaction and mix back in much harder. So I just really don't see the benefits of having it only in the mempool and not in consensus.
Okay, if you guys, anyone wants it to be text pool only, could you voice your opinion? And otherwise, the only question, yeah, sorry. No one. If so, the second question, whether we should place it in blob schedule or just in the PERDAS EIP. Right now I have no strong opinion because we always can switch back to blob schedule settings if we decide to use them for changing this value. But for me, it seems that it would be nicer because it would prioritize ATX pool changes towards scalability. And if we could like keep in mind that we could increase its value from fork to fork and spend some time on it, it would be better for text pool scalability, which we can, if we have this just as a constant, we can then like deprioritize in some sense this like improvements, potential improvements. Otherwise, it would be very easy and flexible to change it in the future if we will figure out that we can do this. We can make it 12, 24, 72, or any other value. So, but the concern that it looks ugly in a blob schedule, right? Because you need to set value if you don't want to make it be default to.
Yeah. I don't think the concern is just it looks ugly. It's like we were literally talking about consensus issues based on fork ID because the blob schedule is a bit weird now. So I might be a bit low context on this, but like I really don't see a strong rationale towards raising that number. Like I don't know if 6 or 9 is the right number. I don't have a strong opinion on that, but I don't see why we don't just like hard code it. And then if people feel like it's insufficient, we just change it in the next real hard fork. I don't think the cost of amortizing beyond like 6 blobs is crazy to ask of rollups.
10 blobs is like 10 times more than what base now uses. They use like 1 and 0.2
not in a
blobs
single
per
transaction.
block.
They don't care if it's in a single transaction or in.
Yeah, exactly. They have to pay what it's like 21,000 gas difference basically. Maybe a bit more because they have to call like the contract, but like yeah. And like yeah, if the limit is 9 today, then like yeah, maybe we just leave it at 9. We don't necessarily need to like to lower it. I don't have a super strong view there, but I guess I do have a relatively strong view that this doesn't seem like a worthwhile place to introduce complexity.
We don't need a lot of blobs in one transaction.
Yeah. And I guess to your point about the specs, so this is maybe a dumb question, but like where is this value currently specified? Like, is it in the blob extension EIP from Pectra that specifies the cap?
It's in the BPO.
Yep.
Sorry?
It's in the BPO EIP.
No, I mean, but on mainnet now.
I think it's just specified as a text pool limit in some implementations.
So there is no limit on mainnet today. Okay, I see.
Well,
yeah.
Well, there is a limit, which is the maximum you can have per block, technically.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So there's no transaction limit EIP only block. I see.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention about 9, which is another topic. Why 9 is better? Because you do not need to take care of eviction of such transactions when Osaka happens. Because we had limit 9 before, then it became 6, and you need to remove it from a transaction pool and take care of block building for this specific block. Because we had such case when we could build a block, we fixed it, but we could build a block with a big number of blobs in transaction because we did not evict it. And yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the question then is like, it seems like we probably do want a limit in consensus now, so we're gonna have to add this no matter what. I guess, I don't know, Ansgar, what is the decision we made 2 weeks ago?
Well, I mean, we can work
on
it
Monday,
back,
it didn't seem super clear to people. Yeah.
No, 2 weeks ago we said we moved the per transaction limit out of the BPO specification just into the PDAS EIP and set it to 6. And I mean, again, that's just an arbitrary choice. We can totally make a different choice, but like, I don't know, it just feels like
I guess I'm fine with that. If we agreed to that, then there's no objection. It just seemed on Monday people were still discussing this call, but yes, does anyone oppose this? And if not, like, can we just open the PR after this call? Okay, the issue was that nobody actually made the change. So does anyone want to volunteer to open those 2 PRs? I guess anyone who's implemented pure DAS on the EL side, can someone do that PR?
Let's ask in the chat probably to agree to this.
Can you do
in
it?
A day or 2. Yeah, I can, but I already did this, and maybe the details were not obvious enough to decline it.
Oh, sorry, did you actually have an open PR? Because I could not find one.
No, I made blob schedule changes. Okay, let me do this simply. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So yeah, so the PR would be to remove this max blob per transaction constant from the EIP 7892 to add a cap in the pure DAS EIP for 6. And yes, sorry if this is not your favorite choice, but thank you in advance for making the PR. There was an other comment in the chat that came up by Lewis. I forget who, but as we were talking about keeping the specs simple for the BPO, Gabriel said that we should consider removing base fee update fraction from BPOs and only have the target and max, because effectively from Osaka, it's like stable. So this would mean that if we want to change the base fee update fraction, we need another real hard fork. Do people think we should also do that change to make BPOs simpler? Barnabas says yes. Gabriel says yes. Is there some reason to remove the feature when we already have it? I guess it's just to limit the risks of consensus changes, consensus issues. Where is that specified? Here.
Well, the only kind of question is if we ship Fusaka and we do the analysis and we decide that we want a BPO value that doesn't have the same ratio, then we won't be able to, right? So we kind of limit what BPO values we can choose in the future.
Well, when we ship Fusaka, we have to choose that value, right? And then what we're saying is that we would not change that value before the next quote real hard fork, sorry. So we could ship, Fusaka, we're going to say these are all the BPOs, they all have the same ratio. And then for a future fork, either we choose to change that ratio for all of the BPOs or we choose to reintroduce this. It's fine. It's fine to leave it in, but it's just another source of complexity. Ansgar?
Yeah, I would personally prefer to leave it in unless clients have that as a pain point specifically, that this specific extra value has caused issues, because it is very convenient to be able to basically have that extra lever where if we ever feel like we want to get a little bit more throughput, but we are already at the maximum the network can handle, that we can basically, in principle, if the data supports that we have a little bit more room to go in just squeezing that ratio a bit more. It feels like in the spirit of BPOs to be able to have that configurable.
But do we want this in the first iteration of BPO? Do we think we're going to use this in Fusaka?
Meaning, do we want to use this pre-Glamsterdam, right? But because it could be that it's not in the first BPO that comes with Fusaka, but it could be that we then have a later client release that's basically BPO 234 that still comes pre-Glamsterdam. And I do think there's a chance we might want to do it in there. No?
Yeah, and also just adding onto that, we might run into this weird situation in the future when we do change it, where clients then need to have extra logic that says for BPO 1, 2, 3, use the base fee update fraction from Prague, but for 5, 6, 7, use it from Glamsterdam. And at that point, you've basically come back to just defining it in the blob schedule, because you need that mapping between BPO and blob schedule anyway.
Okay, I think this convinces me. So I think we leave this as is, and if it does become a pain point, we can reconsider removing it. So for now, okay, let's just stick with the previous decision. We remove the max blobs per transaction from the BPO config, and we add a cap of 6 per transaction in the pure DAS spec. Anything else on pure DAS or BPOs? Okay, next up then, there was an update on ModExp where Marcin said that it still poses some issue performance-wise at higher gas limits. And there's 2 paths to dealing with this. Either we do a bunch of client optimizations, or we potentially just radically increase the price where we triple the price of ModExp. So there was a PR for this. I don't know if Marcin is on the call, and if so, do you want to give some more context on the work you've done?
Yes, sure. I think our target after Fusaka is to be ready for 100 million gas limit, and unfortunately with APS 7883 in current shape and with current client implementations, we can't do this.
because you can take a look at the graph. I posted it in issue of this meeting. And Ref, Nethermind, and Bezu are performing good enough, but we have Gef and Erigon with worst ModExp cases after repricing at 26 megagas per second, when 33 is the minimal requirement for going to 100 million gas limit. And at this point, we have a choice to try to improve clients or to increase ModExp pricing even more. And if we exclude ModExp and look at other bottlenecks, then there are, of course, some client-specific bottlenecks, but on protocol level, the next blocker is EC recover, EC add, and EC mul, and they are performing at about 50 to 55 megagas per second. And we would like to avoid the situation when we reprice ModExp and it will become a bottleneck again after Fusaka. So if we want to avoid it, we need it to perform at least at this level of 50 to 55 megagas per second. And right now we have 2 clients at 26, so they would need to double the performance. And why there are so big differences between clients? So in Ref and Nethermind, these clients are using very fast library, GMP, and it is because they are so fast. And it might not be a good idea to force all clients to move to the same library. Probably it's better for protocol in general to have it more diversified. But then the question is if it is possible to move performance to be twice faster. And if it is possible, it's great. But if not, we need to increase the prices again. And AIP 7883 in current shape, and it was designed to have the lowest possible impact on the calls. So in current form, it's affecting only 38% of calls, and we already know the addresses which are affected. There is a great report made by Tony about the impact of this, and all the edge cases are already addressed. So if we want to increase prices more, then we just need to do like a general price increase. So then 100% of calls and 100% of users will be affected. And if we will affect all users, then we can probably go crazy and just triple the price because everyone will be affected anyway. So at the end, I left everyone with the question what we want to do. We can try to improve GAF and Erigon, but it will require doubling the speed of the worst case of ModExp, or we need to reprice ModExp more, but then all the users will be affected. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Milan?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to mention quickly on that note that we are experimenting with improving the performance for ModExp at the moment, and it's without GMP. But we probably need like maybe a few more days to actually see the outcome of this. So if like a few more days is okay, then we can provide some input then on this.
Okay. And then, yeah, I asked who would be most affected if we could, if we were to reprice this. And it seems like it's been hard to get some numbers out of Dune for like what are the biggest users of this precompile. Matter Labs seems to be one of them. I guess given this is like a relatively small change spec-wise, and I expect we still probably have a couple weeks before launching Devnet 3, does it make sense to spend the next 2 weeks actually investigating this more deeply, and then making a final call before the Devnet 3 launch? I guess, okay, Ansgar's question, like, are we certain we're going to have another ACDE before launching Devnet 3? I guess based on the reports of Devnet 2 today, I expect we're probably not going to launch Devnet 3 this week or next week, but I don't know, is that potentially off? Yeah, Felix?
I just, sorry, maybe a bit off topic. I just wanted to say that like within Geth, we are definitely investigating the performance increase in terms of just like improving the performance of the implementation. But I also think that it would be wise to just like slightly overprice the ModExp anyways, because yeah, maybe we missed something, or so might actually be a good idea to just go with the higher price if it makes no difference after all. I mean, we have to see, it can't be priced unreasonably high, but if it doesn't make that much of a difference, we might as well just do it.
Yeah, and I guess what we would want to figure out is there any application that breaks at a 3x price for ModExp? Are there any applications that become kind of cost prohibitive? And so it seems like Maris listed a few like Matter Labs, Coinbase Smart Wallet, EigenDA. So maybe we can reach out to those in the next week. Yeah, get their thoughts, and potentially we can also just finalize this on ACDC next week, even though it's not a CL topic. But if we want to move fast and not risk delaying Devnet 3, that seems like a reasonable path forward.
Could we make a plan as to what the open questions are and who's going to be investigating them?
So I guess the one question I would have on the pricing is just if we reach out to, like, you know, say these 3 and potentially other large users of the precompile, asking them would a 3x price increase of this precompile if it led us to being able to raise the gas limit significantly, make it a difference for you. So I think that's like something we can ask those 3. I'm happy to own that. I guess on the library benchmarking, I'm less sure what the actual next steps would be.
I mean, we're on it with the library stuff. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
There's like changes being investigated, and I mean, yeah, we can. The other thing to know is that we only ever really worry about ModExp in the context of like worst cases. So like worst case attacks. We're not really seeing that. Like, blogs are being filled with the ModExp right now. So the other thing we could do is kind of just like implement GMP as a kind of optional backend or something like that. But it will have some technical downsides. But it's something that we could do, where basically we will have the option of activating it if we need to, or something like that. But I would strongly prefer that we try to have at least like 2 implementations of this function somehow. Like, if it's fine if it's GMP and one other one, I think that would be good enough.
Ansgar?
Yeah, on the question of like basically reaching out to people or what to investigate, I personally think if we are serious about scaling, which I think we are, then coming up like in Glamsterdam at the latest, and then the folks afterwards, we will probably have to make very at least we will have to be comfortable with starting to make decisions that are a bit more breaking some use cases, or basically just in general a bit more disruptive, because that just comes with the territory. Like we will have to change the EVM a bit more in general and the execution system. I feel like this is a very mild case. So if we already have concerns here, I feel like that the entire kind of project seems doubtful. So I personally would actually say we should just go ahead and make this decision as a bit of a just getting used to setting the tone that that basically people have to expect that occasionally prices change, and prices change in like mildly disruptive ways, and there's no way around it, and that's just the cost of actually going to higher throughput. So I would personally just prefer to make that decision today.
Okay. Let's do some, and then yeah, we can see if we want to do this and commit to it now. But yeah, some.
Question to Get actually. Have you guys shipped the GNOC improvements in a release, or are you planning to release it? Because Aragon and I think Get had initially gotten some improvements with GNOC, but the latest libraries for EC stuff isn't really audited fully.
So yeah, there was a problem with the GNOC, so we disabled it again. But I think I have to actually check if we shipped enabling it again. So basically, we enabled it for a short time, then we disabled it because of some like bug, and then so now we have to check it back if it's like.
Yeah, so the issue was some kind of encoding on the first byte or something, but
yeah, so it was just broken.
Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is enabling that, because you disabled it, you had one reason to. There might be more reasons to disable it if you don't go for the audit. So chasing performance may have security issues, just like this, and it's only that we saw in the perfnet that we were able to get these performance gains with the switched library that we are now discussing, ModExp, but otherwise we would be discussing the EC precompiles on this call. So maybe it's worth revisiting that as well, which would mean repricing may just be the way to go if you want to bank on the battle-tested libraries we've been using in the EVM for so many years, and not really be enthusiastic about switching them all just to fit the same cost for those.
That's actually a good point, especially with GNOC. So basically, your point is that all the clients use GNOC now for these precompiles, or?
Just Get an Aragon, but the point is just because we saw the performance improvements, I don't think we're in a position to make releases in the next 2 weeks on that, and that would mean that it's not battle tested. Even if we do, even if we take the risk, which is kind of big. So I would say if you want a higher limit, just raise the prices, assuming the bad performance of the libraries we have been using over the years, which, for ECAD, the performance I remember was like 13 megagas. So if we are not comfortable, say, by the next DevNet that we want GNOC, which, by the way, I'm not, because, we have to do some internal analysis on our side as well. We have made some releases since then, but none of them have this GNOC switch. And even if we are able to get some performance gains with ModExp, I'm not sure we should just not reprice anything and just claim that the performance is great, so now we are good to go. So repricing should be the way to go for Fusaka.
Okay. I don't know who iPhone is, but
oh, sorry, I forgot to rename. Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that Geth and probably Aragon rely on Gnak already, just because of the KZG precompile?
It's the audit covering those, and the EC stuff was different.
Well, to do the KZG precompile, you need sort of a curve underneath, right? Like BLS 12.381. So like it's the same, like yeah, it's like the same code. It's just that we have a library on top of it for KZG precompile.
Okay, so, but I guess, yeah, based just on the previous comments, like if we don't feel confident in relying on the libraries, at least now, like, I guess, yeah, is there any downside? Is there any significantly downside to accepting the price increase now? And again, if our confidence really increases that we don't need to do this, we can always walk it back. But just in terms of finalizing the specs for Fusaka, I would probably lead towards moving forward with the repricing and having that in Devnet 3. Yeah, so I guess any objections to including that PR to 3x ModExp gas price? Okay, then let's get this merged. I'll also reach out to the 3 projects we listed to just see if they have any kind of concerns that come up after this, but let's assume we're moving forward with this and we'd include this change for Devnet 3. Okay, I think this was the last Fusaka issue to cover today. Anything else before we move on? Oh, Spencer actually had 2. So, okay, we agreed to change the blob base cost in 7.9.18 on the last ACDE. 7.9.18. Did anyone open that PR? If not, can anyone just make that change? Okay, Francesco's going to do the 7.9.18 PR. Thank you. And then for 7.9.51 repricings, does anyone have context on this one? I actually don't quite remember this one. Yeah, does anyone have context on the 7.9.51, the 7.2.1, the R1 curve repricing?
I don't have much context. Like no one is speaking up. I can say that I think the last benchmark we did, it felt like it was also underpriced compared to other precompiles, and we should also consider repricing it. I think the number we kind of looked at was 2x price. But yeah, I kind of low context on this as well.
Okay. So yeah, Ansgar said if we don't have more data to prove it's safe lower, we should just 2x the price. Does anyone have an objection to that? if not, I think then yes, we should just move forward and hopefully get to a final pricing scheme today. So does anyone want to open a PR to 2x the price of that one?
I can do it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other Fusaka related issues people want to bring up? Okay, then moving on to Glamsterdam. So we've had many different headliners being proposed for Glamsterdam. The deadline for the proposals was June 20th, and I don't think that we've seen any new proposals since then. At least I haven't. So I think we're pretty good in terms of freezing the proposals for Glamsterdam headliners. But originally, we said that we would make a final decision 2 weeks from now. That does seem quite premature. So I wanted to ask client teams, what's the amount of time you think we need to actually review this, have a proper discussion around the different candidate headliners? My sense is we need at least a month, potentially more, but yeah, how do client teams feel about this? Yeah, Andrew?
Yeah, I don't speak for Aragon. I don't think we've collected Aragon's point of view, but personally, I think we should go for the block access list. It helps a lot with parallelization, especially in the worst case, and I think parallelization is crucial for achieving a scalability of Ethereum.
Got it. And yeah, I guess to Lukash's comment, yeah, I think we should consider the proposals being closed, and it's more a question of how much time do people need to actually review this, and how many discussions we want to have on ACDE about it. And my instinct is we probably need at least 2 calls or something, and I expect we can probably spend a big chunk of the next call on this. But this assumes that client team actually have time to start looking into this, before the next calls. And yeah, it's possible that the next 2 weeks are spent on Devnet 3. So if we assume that, then it meant July 17 we finalized Devnet 3, then on the 31st of July and the 15th of August we would spend time looking into these headliners, at least for the EL side. I think this also gives us enough heads up to reach out to the rest of the community and get their thoughts on this. So yeah, I guess maybe this would be my proposal, is that we kind of focus on Devnet 3 in the next call, so July 17th, and then the 2 calls after that, we try to sort through at least the EL side of the headliners, and then teams can start reviewing them. In the meantime, we can obviously discuss them on these magicians, and if there's stuff that comes up, we can do so on these calls, but we can kind of proactively mark these 2 calls as when we would discuss it, when we would want community input to come in by, and whatnot. And then to Joachim's question, I think we would want to only sort out all the other EIPs once we've actually chosen the headliner, because otherwise, it's kind of hard to make decisions about the small features if we don't know what the big feature is already. And yeah, sorry, just to be really explicit, So in terms of the schedule, like July 17th in 2 weeks, we would just focus on Devnet 3 and Fusaka, wrapping that up. And then like the two main calls we would use to discuss the EL headliners would be August 31st and July 31st and August 14th. Yeah, on that note, Nixo, you had a comment about forecasts. Do you want to give a quick overview of it?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So Mark and I have been working on this resource. It's forecast.org. And basically it just shows the main benefits of every EIP and also how stakeholders are affected. And we would love input from any interested parties in the EIP. We already got most of the EIP authors to look over, I think except for one EIP. But yeah, we would love feedback on that, or if anybody has ideas for additional features that might be useful to help compare across these. There's also a Fusaka page, but we would like to focus on Glamsterdam just to be a good resource for people to look at the headliners and really understand what those headliners are.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, this is a really cool tool. So if you have feedback on it, please reach out to Nixo or Mark, and they will keep improving it. But they already have all the different headliners that have been proposed listed there. Okay, and so for the other EIPs in Amsterdam, I think we should wait, like I said, to have a headliner before we make a call on them. So Guillaume had proposed this adding a code chunking EIP to Glamsterdam, but then we also had CFI'd a bunch of EIPs for Glamsterdam really early on that were mostly Verkle related. So my proposal would be that we move both those Verkle related EIPs and also the code chunking EIP and any other EIP that wants to be proposed as a not headliner just to the PFI list. So anyone can open a PR, we can start tracking them, but we don't quite make a decision about them yet. And then once we actually have the decision on the headliner, then we review this like long tail of smaller EIPs and decide which ones can fit in. I guess first, the people generally agree this makes sense, and then second, like, is it okay to move the previously CFI EIPs from like the old process back to PFI? Because I don't think we actually had PFI when we moved those to CFI.
Which EIPs are we talking about? Like the two Verkle ones?
I posted the PR. It's more than two. It was state 4762, the statelessness gas cost changes, 6800, the Verkle one, 6873, pre-image retention, 7545, Verkle proof verification precompile, and 7667, raise the cost of hash functions. So all of these were like CFI'd before we actually had PFI kind of status.
Right.
And yeah.
The precompile one, I think it should be withdrawn or abandoned because I thought it was actually.
Okay.
4762, yeah, makes no sense in Glamsterdam. 6800 should be withdrawn, so no need to move them anywhere. The hashing one, I don't think it's mine, or mine or my team's. Yeah, did we cover them all?
So yeah, stateless gas got changed. I mean, if you want to just look at the PR, if you think it's fine to just remove them all, just leave a comment on the PR and I'll do that.
Okay, yeah, just saw your PR. Okay, I can leave a comment, but yeah, most of them need to be gone, and one of them, like the 4762, needs to be saved for later.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And then yeah, so for Guillaume, for your next EIP, then I would just open a PR against the Glamsterdam Meta EIP, add it to the PFI list, and then once we're ready to discuss those after the headliners, we'll discuss it, and all the others. People can obviously start discussing it async in the meantime, but yeah, this will allow us to keep.
Sorry, you mean 29, 26?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, yes, there was one last question about the deadline for PFIing small EIPs. We also had a deadline for this, but I think I didn't want to set this given this revised date. I think it's fine to discuss this in the next 2 weeks or async, but we should have a deadline. It should be after we've chosen the headliner. So yeah, like I don't know when we want to have this, but I think a month or two after the headliners were chosen. And so I don't know, I think it's fine to wait for the PFI deadline for the next call. We've agreed on like when the headliners should come. And then on the point of multiple headliners, historically, we've never succeeded at that. So I would have a very strong bias against it, but it's possible that like there's exceptions here. But the whole point is saying like, what is the most important thing we want in the fork and what would we want to like build the fork around? And the only time we ever tried to do this with two things was the original version of Petra, and that went pretty poorly. So I think we should try to stick to one as much as we can. Yes, if we aim for a quick small fork, we'll get a regular sized medium time fork. Okay, so just to recap, headliner discussions focused on the July 31st and August 14th call. We'll figure out the deadlines for the other stage of the process after, and then we can move these other EIPs to either PFI or remove them if they're no longer relevant. Anything else on Glamsterdam? Okay, then Matt had some history expiry updates. Yes, do you want to give some context on the ERA file?
Yeah, sure. So there's two quick things I want to touch on. The first is this ERA E file format, which I linked to on the PM repo. I will share a link here as well. Basically, the motivation for this is the ERA 1 file format. We sort of designed this several years ago with the intention that ERA 1 would always and only be for the information that was before the merge. And we had thought that we would go for the post-merge data using this file format that already existed on the consensus layer, which was just ERA. And over time, over the last year or so, we've kind of realized that maybe it makes sense for execution layer and consensus layer to have different file formats. If you're an execution layer and you're trying to bootstrap an archive node, you don't necessarily want to download all of the beacon state data and whatever else that the ERA file might have, that the consensus layer ERA file might have that allows them to do debugging. And so when we were in Berlin a few weeks ago, we sat down with some of the people and we talked about what an execution only ERA file would look like. And it looks very similar to how ERA 1 looks like, with a couple notable exceptions. I'll just give you the footnotes of it, but the specification will go over in detail the things that changed. The most important things that changed is that instead of storing the values per block sequentially, meaning storing the header followed by the body followed by the receipts, we now store all of the headers, all of the bodies, all of the receipts. This allows for us to respond to range queries more efficiently for syncing. We also changed the receipt format because most people don't actually store the 2718 receipt format, and so we've stored it in like a more optimal way. And then we've added a proof format, which is kind of optional for ERA E, but allows, if included, for anyone to verify any block within the ERA E file against some historical root in the consensus layer. So it still kind of gives this like good verifiable property. So the ERA E file, this is kind of like my proposed specification. I would love to get some feedback on this over the next couple of weeks. Basically, what we want to do now is that we we've kind of done this pre-merge history expiry, and clients support this. And we'll talk about like defaults in a second, but we also want to continue expiring history, and we're working towards rolling history expiry. This is kind of the golden standard, the thing that we, once we achieve this, then we can say that like history expiry is kind of finished. But before then, there's still a lot of data between the pre-merge history and the moment when rollups began to use blobs. So ARA-E is kind of the one thing in our way from really going from pre-merge history expiry to expiring up to the Cancun hard fork. So that's kind of why I'm like trying to get feedback on this and iterate on this pretty quickly, is because the faster that we can get ARA-E sorted out, the faster we can generate the files, the faster we can start having people serve and store these files, and the faster we can begin expiring history post merge up to Cancun and potentially before. But basically, I just want to get agreement on this file format, and then once we agree and we generate the files for the history, it's up to clients to kind of decide what they're comfortable with. If clients don't feel comfortable with pruning history beyond the merge, that's fine. I know some clients are really hoping to do this sooner than later, so we want to make sure that it is going to be possible for them to do that as soon as possible. So my goal is by the end of July, we agree on this ARA-E format, and in parallel, we're kind of working on implementation in Geth, but the expectation is that once we agree on this file format, it shouldn't take more than a few weeks to complete the implementation, generate the files, share the files, and we could kind of say, all right, if clients want to start expiring up to Cancun, then that's okay, it's their decision. So that's ARA-E files. Are there any questions or comments on that? See, Storm asked if receipts are optional. Right now, receipts are not optional in the ARA-E file format. Okay.
Why do we have so many ARA formats?
This is maybe I kind of like glossed over this, but this ARA format is the one to rule them all for the execution layer. So ARA 1, it came up with ARA 1 when we were in Austria several years ago. And like I said at the time, we felt that ARA 1 was just this one thing we needed to do to then unlock execution clients to use ARA files. But over time, we realized that the ARA file just wasn't quite the right fit for what the execution layer needed. It's not, the execution layer can't even generate the ARA file by itself because it needs the consensus layer data as well. So what we want to do is we want to migrate to ARA-E over a period of time. So eventually when clients are implemented ARA-E, they can begin to deprecate ARA 1 and move off of that file format. Well, ARA 1 kind of referred to ETH1, and so it's sort of weird that it would also refer to ARA post-merge too.
Okay, aside from the naming convention, any other questions? Okay, so yeah, questions around the receipts. We can probably discuss that. I think where's the best place to talk about this? I think
there's a channel called History Expiry in the R&D Discord.
Okay.
That would, yeah, there is. So I think that's a good place. Also, Execution Dev, I read that channel. Just tag me anywhere.
Okay, so let's at least have the conversation around the receipts being optional or not. And yeah, when would we need to make a final call on this?
I think we have 2 more execution layer dev meetings, ACDEs, before we should. So not the next one, but the one after. We should probably be wrapping up any discussion and kind of say that this is the format.
Okay. And I guess this kind of brings us to your last point around like dropping pre-merge history by default. When should we do that? Do we want to couple this with Fusaka before that, or yeah?
Yeah, so there's a blog post going out this week or early next week. I've been in touch with all the client teams about this, so I'm assuming most are aware, but we're going to kind of announce that this partial history expiry aspect of history expiry is possible now. And in Berlin a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that because of the work that everyone's done around implementing E69, implementing the ERA 1 format, that I felt comfortable saying it's okay for clients to start making it a default to not download the history. I think Besu in the latest release now makes it default for Snapnodes, yeah. So I think some clients are beginning to do this. I just wanted to get a temperature check on if people still feel it's okay, and also hear like which clients are doing this or intend to do it, and just getting a rough idea of what people's timelines are.
Ref, Aragon, Nevermind, anyone? Some context on this?
Yes, so we are making a release tomorrow that supports it, and that I think it's enabled by default. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I think we are dropping them by default.
Great. Nethermind and Ref. Nethermind's ready. Okay, awesome. And yeah, okay, Roman's checking, but should be able to support it. So great. If people could just confirm that on the history expiry channel as well in the next day or so, that'd be great. But yeah, it seems like we should be able to make this a default across all the clients quite soon. Sorry, did you have anything else like clients?
I was just going to say that it is kind of client's decision. I think it is okay to do this, but we're fortunately past the point where we need to move in lockstep. And that was kind of a big goal that I mentioned in Berlin, is that we're trying to figure out the things that require group agreement and moving together. And that was doing E69, waiting until after we stopped relying on receipts for generating the merge genesis. So that is all complete. And then for the ERA E, we all need to sort of agree on this file format. But once these types of things get done, then it's on the clients to implement it at their convenience. And I know that like not every client has the same bandwidth at the same time. And so that's kind of why it's okay for you to make a release to drop the history when it makes sense for your client.
Okay. I think we can wrap up here. Anything else before that? See that? Well, thank you, everyone. Yeah, we'll talk to you all on Monday's testing call, and I'll share a summary of all of this call and the action items in the chat a bit later today. Yeah. Thanks all.